three subjects. First, I'll explain a little bit about Itility, what we're doing, so you get a feeling about that. And then I will explain our smart factory framework. Basically, consolidation projects are really tough projects, and I will explain why they are tough. We talk a lot with IT managers and CIOs, and they're really afraid to tell us CFO that they have to clean up the mess. That's basically the issue. I mean, there's a lot to gain in money and also quality and security, all the things Peter just mentioned, but they have difficulty defending it because their customers are asking for new functionality, and basically the CIO is telling them, hey, I need some time to clean up my mess, and it's going to cost several millions of dollars. So that's why these are tough projects, to defend them and to do them, and I'll explain why. And at the last point I will explain briefly a case, just to elaborate on that. So looking at Itility is a small company. And why is it small? We believe in methodology. We don't believe in bodies. So basically what we do, we have methodologies to consolidate your IT infrastructure, which also contains your data center stuff, like square meters and power, etc. And because we know we need the end user's operations, and sometimes he has his own operations guys, and sometimes he relies on the parties, the big parties, the volume parties like Capgemini, Atos and IBM. So often we work on top of those parties, because those parties, they want to have your infrastructure and manage that, but they don't have the methodology to build a business case and to clean it up, basically. Yeah. So that's why we are small, and we will stay small. So basically, we did large consolidation projects for companies with 100+ data centers. We did them with 3 to 4 people, but mostly on top of a party like IBM or Atos, etc. So looking to that, methodology is more important than, I'll explain that later, more important than bodies, because you have to understand the dynamics of the company. There's a big change component, like Peter already mentioned, in these kind of projects. So looking at the projects, well, these are really those kind of projects a company doesn't like to do. We cut companies in pieces, like for instance, we are doing the split of ING Insurance from ING Bank. Well, these are the kind of nasty projects, and you can imagine that it is a kind of consolidations with a number of improvements in it. But we do also typical, traditional data center consolidation, workplace rollout. We just rolled out a big workplace project at NACO, Dutch energy company, together with Capgemini, etc. So these are the kind of projects we do, the nasty migration, cleanup projects, and we believe in methodology. The point is we are small, so the customer is not afraid of us, so we are often in the room with the CFO and the CIO explaining how can you do this, what are the risks, etc. So we want to be really nearby the end user. So basically this conference for us is a little bit far away, and I can express that feeling because the CIOs I'm talking to, they also think, yeah, those data centers, what's happening there in that world. It's far from him, it's really plumbing for him, so maybe we have to anticipate on that one. And he needs help to build his business case. Okay, enough about Itility. So, looking at consolidation projects, these are really nasty projects. And you see the fridges below there. You have 3 fridges, and we want to consolidate that to 1 fridge. And we have 2 basic problems, and one of them is already addressed. Peter, our customer doesn't know what's in his fridge. He really doesn't know, and he tries to get a grip on that, but we've never seen a customer who does proper asset management, especially not the big ones. They really don't know. So they always tell us we have a perfect CMDB, etc., but you need to go in there and look what's in the fridge. So that's problem number 1. But we have a second problem, and the second problem is those data centers, they look static, but in fact they aren't. I mean, developers are working on it, end users are working on it, so the thing is running. And basically, mostly a CFO tells you you can only go in the fridge when somebody opens it and closes it. So you cannot shut down the fridge for a weekend and do your thing. And then that's really the hard stuff. So you You have to wait until your son goes to the fridge, he pulls it open, then you have to look what's in there. You have to grab something behind and to remove it, and that we call decommissioning, with an expensive, difficult term. And then he closes the fridge, and you have to take care that your arm is not caught by the door. So that's why these are nasty projects. And the stupid thing is, we ITers, we tend to solve this with typical methods like Prince 2 and stuff like that. And we thought that's stupid. You need a better process, a kind of factory. You need to assess those uncertainties, and you have to go in that fridge at really the right moment. And so you have to integrate in that company and understand the dynamics. And we always think that the data center is a static thing, but that's not the case. So basically, those projects are tough. You really need to get trained in this, and this is what we are doing. Methodology, and we train people in that methodology. And I will explain that methodology. So we call it a smart factory because we grab all kind of lean concepts to better understand that engine, which is going to clean up, and execute that engine, which is going to clean up that fridge. So basically, if you see at the bottom of the picture, if you look at the bottom, then you see 4 processes. The typical processes we see in a consolidation project. It's about standardization, it's about consolidating, so pushing storage or databases in a more consolidated way on a new solution. That's consolidation. We do cleanup, for instance, fixing the C and the P, doing the tagging and the cabling, stuff like that. And we also do commissioning, really switching things off. And then the money comes out of it, because mostly this has a money driver. So basically what we did, this is the model you have, it's the top model. Below you see the real activity, the activities, and in the middle you see a kind of, these are the typical tactical processes you need to run a factory. So for instance, we don't talk about project management because we don't like to call it project management. We talk about control room. We need a control room which is managing all those activities. We talk about run books instead of talking about plan. We talk about cookbooks instead of talking about design. So the trick is really build the factory, and it is quite successful because when we go in with companies, the companies ask us, can we get your methodology, because we need this on an ongoing basis. And because basically he forgot to do his lifecycle management because he doesn't want to do these kind of activities, because he doesn't get the money for it, he doesn't get the capex for it. So the message of this story is consolidation, nasty projects, they are complex, like Peter explained, and you need a factory to run them. And it's really funny because if you look to other industries, they really fix that. Look at lean. How can I consistently produce a product with quality at the cost I would like to run it? And basically in IT we don't do it. We still do big efforts to clean up the mess. And that's why people are afraid, or end users, to move their stuff to other data centers and to move their stuff around. Because it's a tricky project and they cannot allow the downtime to their customer. Okay, so you need to think about it, and that's what has been done in Smart Factory. These are the 4 processes, I'm not going into detail. Looking how we process a thing like this, you see at the top, it's basically the model is built of all kinds of forms and tooling around it, so discovery tooling, assessment tooling. Looking at the top, you see the principles like we only use Oracle 10.0. All file shares we will put on a NAS device, etc. These are the kind of principles we have there. At the lower left corner, you see the assessment. You really need to assess your fridge because the customer doesn't know what's in the fridge. And from that one, you do the crunching and you put out a puzzle. And from the puzzle, you create a run book, an action book. So it sounds very logic, but in most organizations and most IT organizations, it's not done that way. Because mostly technical people are doing things you don't know. It's not a factory. And just a guy who's trained in Linux, he logs in and he thinks, hey, I can consolidate something. And Often it goes wrong, but at least it's unplanned. Anyhow, so what we do, we train operators in doing this. In our project you see less technical people and more factory operators. And then you squeeze the money out, because that's why we do it. Looking at a case, this is just one of the cases. It's about an engineering company, it's called NXP. And if you have an Apple, then for sure there's an NXP chip in your Apple. So they build chips for set-top boxes, but also for mobile phones, for computers, etc. It was a big company, but we all know what happened the last 5 years. All those companies have been cut in pieces, and multiple pieces, so they sold their TV chips development, they sold their phone chips development, etc. And they consist of engineering companies, and those engineering companies, they were bought on more than 50 sites. These sites are the data center sites, and they had their own stuff under the desk, and that's basically what we cleaned up. And you see big results. Basically, we cleaned up from 40% to 80% of their devices, like storage, like switches, etc. So basically, they squeezed multiple millions of dollars out of this environment. So this is basically my story. Very briefly, consolidation. If you meet a customer, tell them it's tough, because you need to do that fridge thing I just explained, and you have to pull it open at the right moment, plus you don't know what's in there. And the second one, you have to do your lean concepts, use them, and then we can move faster in the IT infrastructure, which also contains the data center stuff, of course. Okay?